Welcome to the Cepheus Revolution for Terra. Now I'm going to talk about how skills work in the Cepheus Engine and in Traveller, which shares the same system. Now in many systems, your skills are very gradual and could go through a very large range without actually representing levels of expertise. A very clear example of it is the D20 system, which is based on the third edition of Dungeons and Dragons, in which skills could range in a very large range depending on your level, how many skill points you invested in them, and still you have no clear distinction between levels of expertise. It's simply a game mechanic to do various things such as open a lock or disarm a trap. Now, in Traveller and Cepheus Engine, a skill is a level of expertise, an actual level of expertise. Now, for example, if you go to level 1 skill, you could see in the basic Traveller rules, even the classic ones, the original 3 books from 1977, your character can earn a salary with level 1 skill. Some of them could be very lucrative salaries, for example, if you're a pilot. Level 1 skill, which in other games, level 1 skill is very low. Here, you have a job skill. You can earn a living, you could do all sorts of things, you could pilot a starship. And if you go to level 3, for example, if you go to the medical skill, in level 3, you are a doctor already with dexterity of 8, you also become a surgeon. Now, the interesting thing is how this actually maps into real-life expertise. Now, skill 0, for example, means that you have some basic training, basic idea in something, which you could do in organized training of a few weeks, or simply by being exposed to the subject. Skill 1 means you know what you're talking about, you generally know the subject, you could hold a job in it, but you're not an expert. If you go to level 2 or 3, those are actually expert or professional levels. Level 3 is an actual profession. You could get, your character could get certified for it. And this actually maps to experience. To give you an example, for example, my mother, she doesn't really know about computers. Now she knows how to send an email. She knows how to watch various videos on it. But any kind of error or any kind of thing which is above and beyond using a web browser and Google and Gmail, she will have to ask for help from another person because she doesn't know the basics beyond regular computer use of a casual user. This represents unskilled level. Now, my fiancée, she knows a little more. She could, for example, install all kinds of software. She could install Windows in some cases, if this causes no problem. And those generally, for example, if you switch it off and switch it on again, it usually solves the problem. This is the most basic knowledge in computers, by the way. They turn it off and turn it on again, this solves things. Once you know this knowledge, the general knowledge of basics, is around level 0 of skill. For example, computer 0, it means you generally understand what this machine is. You generally understand that if you reset it, it sometimes helps, usually helps. You generally understand what an operation system is, and so on. But it's not enough to hold the job, you just know how to use it well. For example, I have level 1 skill. That is, I know the more intricate parts of it, which is installing all kinds of operation systems, like Linux and Windows. I could solve various software problems, sometimes even minor hardware problems. I know all kinds of advanced search algorithms in Google and other places. I could type very quickly. I know advanced office functions and so on. And this is an integral part of my job of content writing and translation and information sciences. I really use this skill to earn money. Now, I'm not a computer engineer. I can't really program, I can't develop software or repair complex electronics, and other things, but I can use it to earn a job. Now, at the level of 3, you really have an engineering job. Engineering is a professional. You usually have some kind of certification and some kind of professional association. And what is the difference? My mother never had any training in it. My fiancée, she learned from regular use of many years. She knows the basics. For example, to learn this in the real world, in a short time, it's about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're sitting and studying it. For me, it's several years that I invested in it, not directly, but I worked with these things. I have quite an experience with it. But to get, for example, level of engineering, you'll have to study for many years. At least 4 years, depends on the program and country. Now, what this means is that if your character has level 1 in a skill, this is not a low skill. This is not, is weak. Some people say, well, my character only has Vaxsuit 1. He's very useless. No, he's not. First of all, he has a profession. He's a professional spacer. And, of course, in the Vaxsuit skill, in Old Traveller, you could use all kinds of fancy armor, like the battle dress, which is rather cool, especially if you take to the account the fact that you have, as an adventurer in the Old Traveller rules, level 0 skill in all weapons, which means with Vaxsuit 1 you could fight very well and wear very expensive and complicated armor, which gives you perfect protection. Now, most characters in science fiction will not have many high skills. In many cases, it could be around 6 skill points in total of 7. And you could do all kinds of things with it. Because most people don't have multiple professions. Not in the real world, and usually not in fiction, unless you're going to various superhero fiction or maybe James Bond. But this means, for example, a very well-developed character will have 1 skill at 3, maybe 1 or 2 skills at 2, several at 1. He'll be really well-developed. It's a person with great professional knowledge who could do various jobs. But you will not have all kinds of multiple high skills. Also, this explains why training rules in Classic Traveller are so simple the way they work. And you don't have an experience systems like Dungeons & Dragons where you simply grow in level and gain all kinds of bonuses and capabilities from experience. Now, once you understand the way skills work and what they represent, it becomes very realistic that you can just go from no skill to skill 3 in a few months of killing orcs. In this case, space orcs. You can't. Even if what you're doing is chopping them with a cutlass, you're not going to become a master swordsman in a few months or even a few years of chopping them. Becoming a professional master swordsman is much more complicated. And the training rules in Classic Traveller, they follow this. That is, you could take a 2-year seminary, simply study full 4-year seminary, study full time, and have a skill of 2. This is academic training. You simply go to school, you study, you invest the time, you invest the money, you learn a profession. You can't do it too many times in your life. In the basic Classic Traveller rules, it's once per life, because it's not, people don't just study things and gain multiple professions just like it. Now, in character generation, you gain more, but even then it's very slow. It ranges from 1 to 4 skill points per term if you're really, really lucky and you get commissioned and promoted at the same turn. You could gain up to 4 when it's the first term, because in the first term you get 2 skill points as basis. But even then, It's very intensive career, and then you gain your basic skills at a young age. Sooner or later, once you're after your main career, you don't study so quickly. Now, skill zero you could gain like this in a few weeks. It's simple. It's simple because, generally speaking, a character really wants it could have skill zero in all skills. It's not. It doesn't change much because most mechanics in the game, at least in the classic system, they require you to have an actual skill. Skill zero could help you in anything that has a role, but for example, to do first aid in Classic Traveller, you need Medic 1, your Medic 0 doesn't help, doesn't help to low burst survival, of course, doesn't help to surgery. So, everyone could take first aid course and understand what's said in it. Now, the big difference from other systems, I'll say again, is that your skills matter. It's not just, you look at the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition character sheet, you have a list of skills, you have a bonus in all of them, based on expertise and proficiency bonus and your various attributes. Now, in Traveller and Cepheus Engine, you don't have this. You have skills, but they are much more important. Each skill is much wider. It allows you to do a job. It's like you could say that the skill level is your class. For example, if you have Medic 3, you are a doctor. It's almost like a character class. You could do all the things a doctor does. Not just this or that specific activity. And the way you build your character is by slow experience. Now the final part of the training rules is that you could increase your skills by experience, but you have to be dedicated to it. Now think in real life. In many cases you really want to get better at something, but many people don't get better, even if it's something they work at their job all the time. Because if you just go to your job from day to day, your experience may not really increase your skill. You have to be dedicated to learn from your experience. You have to put an effort into it. It doesn't always work. You have other things on your mind, it will not work. A person could be a doctor, for example, for his whole career, and not become a world-known specialist expert. For example, he will stay with skill 3 all his life. Why? Because he's working, he knows his job, but to really advance from level 3, which is a professional, to level 4, which is an actual specialist, you need specialist training, and you need, if you don't want specialist training, to be really dedicated to make the change. Really dedicated to learning from your job, drawing lessons. Most people will also go and study afterwards. So you have a dedication role. This represents it. Of course, some people don't like it, but I think it fits with the theme of harder science fiction. When you don't go from zero to hero, you're playing experienced professional adults doing all kinds of cool stuff in space. Rather than going from zero to hero, you don't start as some kind of peasant who becomes the God Emperor in a year or two of game time. Now, this is the most important, I think, aspect of Traveller. I will talk about it in my next video, about examples. And I will show how various famous science fiction characters don't have too many skills, and they still manage to do heroics and look very proficient in what you do. That's it for today. Fight for Terra.